This is a demonstration for problem A2. For problem A2, we're asked to solve it in Excel. So let's look at my spreadsheet. Here is my solution to problem A1. I need to add a sheet by clicking this arrow and name it A2. And so now I have copied the problem and I'm going to put up a text box. There we go. And I'm going to stretch it to the right length and paste my problem into it. Whoops, and I'm going to try that one more time. And here is the problem. And so this is what we're asked to do. So we're asked to find the mean, median, sum of squares, variance, and standard deviation using Excel. So let's begin by organizing our data. First of all, let's indicate our participants. We have scores that we label X1 and X2. And we continue on down. So let me number these all the way through. I think we have 8. And so now we can add the scores in. We could add the scores in by writing them by hand, or we could do that little quick method that I'll just keep demonstrating to you in case you find it helpful, which is to copy them, paste them into a cell, and then use that nice text to column functions to get rid of the commas. I like to do this because I tend to make mistakes when I transcribe data. So if you need to slow that down and watch what I'm doing, I've demonstrated this in class several times and on videos, but hopefully you'll see that now I've got all these data in cells. And so now I can copy these cells. I'm hitting Control-C. I'm placing my cursor just next to my first participant, right-clicking and transposing the data using this little arrow. Now the data are where I need them, and I can see that I have 9 participants. So I can get rid of this. We're done with it. And let's give our rows lots of headings. I'm going to make mine bold by hitting Control-B, and this is our scores or our X column. So we know what we need to find for this data set. We know that in order to solve our problems, we know that we're required to show mean, abbreviated by M. I'm just going to leave that N there. I'll tell you in a moment about it. And we are going to need our sum of squares. We're going to need our variance and our standard deviation. And then we're also asked to find median. So you'll remember what these abbreviations stand for, I hope. The N stands for number, and we're always going to need to calculate with the number of individuals. I can see that it's 9. For my own work, I usually write this down so that I can use it for calculations. And here we go. This is what we need. So in order to find the mean, we know that the formula for mean, and I'm going to leave a little room to write my formulas on the side here, so that I can be helpful to you. So I just move this over and I'm going to make sure and record our formulas for you. So the formula for mean is simply M equals the sum of all the values divided by N. And so let's apply this formula in this first cell. Not sure what I'm hitting that does that. So we're going to type equals the sum of all these values. So I'm selecting all those values, C7 through C15, putting a closing parenthesis and divide by 9. I could click in the cell or I could just write 9 because that's N. And we find that our mean is 29. That looks about right. It looks like a 29 would be in the middle there. Next, we find our sum of squares, and we know that our sum of squares is equal to the sum of all of the squared deviations. And we can remember that this is another way we could write this as the sum of all the deviations squared. And we know that deviation equals x minus m. So we need to take each score x and subtract m. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's make a deviation column, x minus m. And let's go ahead and do the calculation. Equals each score. I've clicked in this first score, minus, and I can click in the cell with the mean. I could also just write the mean in there. You might find this technique helpful. And the only trick is I need to put that $ before that row number to tell it, stay in row 8, stay in row 8. So if I put a $ there, it will stay in row 8. And now we're set. We should be able to, we can see it's correct. 32 minus 29 is 3. So let's select this formula and let's go down to the remaining cells and use Control V to paste that in. And now we can see that we have all the deviations right here. And our next step is to get our squared deviations. So we'll write x minus m, which is another way of saying deviation. And let's put this little square function in there. Now we've already calculated x minus m, so let's go ahead and square it. So let's put our equal sign, click in the cell with the deviations, and square it by putting the little up caret and the 2. Now we can copy this formula. I've clicked back in the cell and I'm using Control C to get the cell framed. And now I'm going to paste it down using Control V. And I have all the square deviations. It's pretty straightforward from here. All we have to do is, for our sum of squares, is sum them up. Equals the sum of all these numbers in this column, our squared deviations. And we're set. We know that our formula for variance equals sum of squares divided by n. So let's get the variance equals, I'll click in the sum of squares, and I'll divide by, whoops, I think that didn't come through, divided by 9, or by clicking in the n cell, whichever it is, and that's 9.556. And to get to the standard deviation, we simply take the square root of the variance. So let's get that equals SQRT for square root, opening parenthesis, the square root of what? Of the variance. So I'll click in the variance cell and hit enter. And now I know the standard deviation is 3.09. And for the median, we need to sort these numbers out in sequence. You can do this by selecting all 4 columns and going to Data and Sort, and then tell it what you want it to sort by. You want it to sort by X. All those scores, we want to put them in order. And so we can see that now they're in order, and we could then count down 1, 2, 3, 4. We can count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're left with a 28 in the middle. And so we know the median is 28. We could confirm it by asking Excel to calculate this for us. Let's type in equals median. And the median of what? Let's select all of these. The median of all those scores, and that's 28 again. So that is correct. And so now we're ready to look back in the problem and see what we're required to paste in, but we should be all set with this problem.